Welcome again to everyone to our luncheon. I have to say there's been a lot of excitement over at our table with President Uribe being here. Please continue eating, but while you're eating, I want to direct you to the video screen for a welcome and presentations from two members of our state legislation in Washington, D.C.
It is a great honor to welcome former Colombian President Álvaro Uribe to the 10th Annual ZionsBank Trade and Business Conference. President Uribe is one of the key architects of modern-day Colombia. Through his leadership, Colombia transformed itself from a virtual failed state to the prosperous economy we see today. To fully appreciate President Uribe's accomplishments, one need only to look at the recent history of Colombia. In the 1990s, Colombia drug trafficking fueled urban and rural violence. Well-armed insurgents and paramilitary groups battled over territorial control. Unemployment, corruption, and kidnapping were widespread. Today, due to the efforts of individuals like President Uribe, Colombia is reawakening. Violence is down, employment is up, and the economy is growing. Institutional reforms are creating a stronger and more vibrant democracy. But our work is not done. Colombia continues to face challenges. Through approval of our pending trade agreement with Colombia, we can help meet those challenges and take another step toward achieving our shared goal of a strong, prosperous, and democratic Colombia. We can also ensure that Utah's exporters have fair access to Colombia's markets. Many of Colombia's products have entered the United States duty-free for decades. The implementation of the pending bilateral trade pact would level the playing field for Utah exporters and allow 46% of Utah exports to Colombia enter duty-free upon implementation on day one, with more to follow in the ensuing years. Our trade agreement with Colombia will help turn this one-way street into a two-way trade partnership. This summer, I will do all I can to ensure that the Congress approves our trade agreement with Colombia. In doing so, we will boost Utah's exports by obtaining improved access to the growing Colombia market. We will also be standing by a true friend and ally in helping millions of Colombian workers, as well as U.S. workers, live better lives. Despite facing many challenges, I believe Colombia is well on its way to being one of the most prosperous, stable, and democratic countries in our hemisphere. Through approval of our trade agreement, the United States can be proud to have played a small part in that success. President Uribe, welcome to Utah. I am sure you will be impressed with the warmth of our people and the vitality of our economy. And finally, thanks to my good friend Scott Anderson of ZionsBank, the World Trade Center of Utah, the U.S. Department of Commerce, and all of you who took the time to participate in today's conference. Utah's prosperity is linked to the world through trade, and it is individuals like you that make it happen.
Senator Hatch. And really, Senator Hatch did a wonderful introduction for President Uribe. I had a long one planned. I've been wanting to meet President Uribe for a long, long time. I served a mission in Venezuela, our sister country, Colombia. And so I've always been interested in President Uribe and what he's done. I could read about his biography, but I'm just going to use three statistics that I think defines President Uribe and his administration. President Uribe is the first elected president of Colombia in 100 years from an independent party. He's the first re-elected president for consecutive terms in Colombia in over 100 years. When he ended his duties as president of Colombia, he had a 75% popularity rating. Those are the three statistics. Yesterday, President Uribe and I met with a group of Colombian leaders. I received a text message that evening. President Uribe is a man of courage, an honest man who sacrificed his good name, the comfort of his home, and even his life because of the love for his country. Right over here, we were trying to get President Uribe to sit down, and you noticed everyone wanted to have a photograph. I tried in vain, 5 or 6 times, to try to get everyone to leave. So we could eat, so President Uribe could eat, so we couldn't do it. And one man finally turned to me and said, you don't understand. We love this man. We love this man. This is a man of courage, and we are greatly honored at ZionsBank to have him be our keynote speaker for lunch. President Uribe.
Mr. Scott Anderson, Mr. Mark Garfield, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to have this afternoon with you. When I think in Utah, I think in a state with moral values, with ethical behavior, with a combination of prosperity and fraternity. You have set a great example for our countries. I have prepared an outline to talk to you about Latin American countries, about progressive and lagging democracies in our region, about the main challenges. Of course, we are very short of time, for I have to reduce my presentation to talk to you about Colombia, about security, about the triangle of confidence, and about the free trade agreement. When my father was killed in an attempt of kidnapping, I had a discussion with my brothers, because they didn't like that I intervened in politics. And I said to them, our father has been killed, and the father of our neighbor, and the uncle of your friend. 50% of Colombians have suffered directly with violence. In 200 years of independent life, my country has enjoyed only 47 years of peace. When I was presidential candidate, I asked university students, have you any time thought to leave Colombia without a return ticket? And the vast majority of them raised their hands. My feeling was that they had cut the links of patriotism with my country, that they did distrust my country, for we chose one single word for leading our campaign and our government, confidence. And of course, we did the architecture to create confidence, and we conceived 3 pillars upon which confidence has to flourish. These 3 pillars are security, investment promotion, and social cohesion. In my country, every politician used to speak about social cohesion. And from one election to the other, the country was getting worse. They spoke about social cohesion, and we had more problems in education, in jobs, in health. And I asked why? Because we have not investment. We speak on social cohesion, but we cannot collect enough amount of taxes for us to improve, to expand education, health, and so forth. Therefore, I said, my fellow Colombians, we need to improve education and health, but we need a source of resources. We need investment. For the first time, we spoke politically about the necessity to promote investment. And we said, but investment needs not only good macroeconomics, but it is essential for investment to have security. Security is a democratic value. Security is a source of resources. Security is a cause for investment. Security and investment are the means. Social cohesion is the end and the validator for security and for investment. In Latin America, security was considered a path for dictators. Or we make a contrast because we spoke and we practiced security with freedoms. Security for all Colombians, for those supporting the government, and for those even the most radical against the government. Security with free press, security with pluralistic participation, security with criticism, democratic security. And let me say this to you. Here, the whole generation remembers the victory of communists in Cuba. The same year of this victory, communists, Marxist-oriented guerrillas appeared in Colombia. They alleged our social problems, but 40 years later, our social problems were worse. Violence created much more unemployment, much more poverty, much more unfair income distribution. After 25 years of violent communist guerrillas, they created the paramilitary reaction with the same cruelty. And at the end, guerrillas and paramilitaries as well became co-opted by narco-trafficking. This is the nightmare of my country. Of course, it was quite difficult to fight for security. In the year 1990, Colombia had presidential elections, and 4 out of 6 presidential candidates were killed. Before our administration, we had here with 30,000 cases of killing. Last year, we still had many. The country is not in a paradise, but we are improving. Last year, we had 15,000. We have reduced it by 1/2. There were years with 4,000 cases of kidnapping. In the last year of our administration, we had 124 cases of kidnapping. Security needs determination. Security needs courage. Politicians in Colombia were afraid of any stand against violent groups, and it is necessary to overcome fear. And of course, security needs macro vision and micromanagement, perseverance in the moments of difficulties. I remember one night, I was called to the presidential house, and the police reported that one car bomb had blasted in a social club in the downtown of Bogota. I went there. Many people had been killed. At midnight, in the middle of the victims, the blood of the rebels, I was pressed by many people to go back with my policies. And I said to them, we need to persevere. We cannot give up to terrorist groups. That night, in the middle of sadness, was a night of pedagogical dialogue. Very early in the morning, I said to them, please, instead of pressing me to go back, please accompany me to say this. Bogota, our capital city, cries but this city never gives up. And many people went to the streets chanting, Bogota cries, but never gives up. I remember that when we launched our first military operation to rescue a group of kidnapped people, at 9 a.m., I was told by the commander of the army, Mr. President, our operation failed. 12 out of 14 hostages have been killed. One of the deaths had been Minister of Defense. He was beloved in our country. The other was the governor in my province. How difficult it was for me to look at the eyes of my fellow Colombians. And I remember that day we went to the jungle. At night, we visited the survivors at the hospital. And at 8 p.m., I said to the commander of the army, General, this is our turn. Now we have to say to our fellow Colombians what really had happened. We have to recognize the failure of the military operation. That night, Colombians divided and united. Many said, we disagree with military rescues launched by President Uribe. Others said, we agree it is necessary to have military rescues of kidnapped people. But all Colombians were united. They believed what we said, because in the middle of difficulties, facing that setback, the only expression that we said was the true narration of what had been true in that moment. I remember that I was pressed to renounce to any new military operation. The family of Madame Betancourt, the Colombian French lady, who was in captivity with 3 Americans and dozens of Colombia, they pressed me not to launch any new military operation. When I came to the United States, I met the families of the 3 Americans. They were nice. I understood them. They wanted their loved one in home back without any risk. I understood. When I visited France, many people chanted at me, against me, because they wanted that my administration gave up too far. And I said, we cannot do the same of the past. Because in the past, when the governments gave up, guerrillas released hostages. But the next morning, they kidnapped many more hostages. We have to rescue the hostages, and we have to stop kidnapping in Colombia. And during 6 long years, I resisted the pressure from French people, from Europeans, from many NGOs, from many Colombians, from portions of the media, pressing me for my administration to give up. And we did not give up. But every day, we did our best to find out how to succeed in a new military operation. And there was the opportunity. It did show up the opportunity. This kidnapping was under the control of one terrorist kingpin. His name was Raúl Reyes. And he had chosen the jungle of Ecuador, our neighboring country, as his hideout. After 6 attempts to go after him, we launched a bombardment, and our armed forces shot him down. That day began the possibility for our army to supplant 5 kingpins without the presence of this kingpin. And 2 months later, the intelligence of our army succeeded in rescuing Madame Betancourt, the 3 Americans, and many, many Colombians. That day was a happy day because it was the day of the release of many hostages without one single drop of blood. And that day was an excellent day for Colombia to defeat kidnapping. And I remember the morning after the bombing against the FARC terrorist group campground in Ecuador, I received a phone call from one outstanding politician in Colombia. He told me, you should fire the commander of the Air Force. Otherwise, you are going to face very hard diplomatic problems. And my answer was, I cannot. I am the only one accountable. I cannot fire the commander of the Air Force. If I fire him, our armed forces are going to lose confidence. And without that confidence, my fellow Colombians are not going to have the possibility to get rid of terrorists and kidnapping. That night, instead of fighting the commander of the Air Force, I said, I am the only one accountable. The Air Force deserves all our applause. And we applauded the Air Force. It is necessary for leaders in difficult moments to assume responsibilities, to be accountable, and to give credit to those who deserve credit. Of course, my country needs much more, but my country is making progress. Progress in security, progress in investment, and progress in social cohesion. In education, for example, we have work coverage, quality, vocational training, R&D, and relevance. As we speak about coverage, in basic education we have passed from 78 to 100. In middle education, from 58 to 80. In university coverage, from 22 to 36. My successor, President Santos, had the possibility to take the country to 50% in university coverage. Colombia is the leading country in the region in vocational training. Last year, my country trained with technological jobs 9 million citizens, and with one state institution that is funded by a tax on the payroll that is paid only by employers. Through this institution, my country did teach English as a second language to 1 million Colombians. I believe in the necessity to combine classical education with vocational training. If besides that, it is possible to reach the base of the pyramid, the students of the poorest families, with microlending, with venture capital funds, with funds of guarantees, they are going to have the possibility to undertake small enterprises. I admire the effort made by the ZionsBank to reach small enterprises. If we are true believers that private investment is an essential freedom and is the only way to create the possibility of prosperity, to overcome poverty, that private investment with social responsibility is the only way to improve the standard of living. We need to legitimize private investment. And for it, it is necessary to reach the base of the pyramid, to make the poorest families in countries such as Colombia, families with entrepreneurial spirit and with all the possibilities. For Colombia to prosper, it is very important, the free trade agreement with the United States. It is important not only for political reasons, but also for economic possibilities. From the standpoint of politics, this agreement is important because no one can understand in Latin America and in the Caribbean why other Latin American and Caribbean countries have the free trade agreement with the United States and Colombia has not. Colombia has the public opinion most friendly with the United States all over the region. This is a very important asset for this country. While in other countries they chant, gringos go home, in Colombia we say, we love the rule of law of the United States. To preserve this friendship is a very important endeavor. Of course, from the economic point of view, I don't believe that in the short term, my country can increase dramatically its exports to the United States. But the approval of the free trade agreement is a clear signal that Colombia is a trustworthy country. If the United States ratifies the agreement, many investors from all over the world will trust in my country. The more the investment, the more the possibilities for the poorest people. The more the legal investment, the less difficult for us to defeat narco-trafficking and terrorism. And for the United States, it is very important. Our senator from Utah has stated in his video, let me say this, Colombia has the third largest population all over the region, with 47 million people, after Brazil with 200 million, and Mexico with 112 million. But Colombia nowadays has the greatest investment rate, over 26% per year. And with this investment rate, in the coming years, Colombia can become the third economy in size in the region. Colombia needs infrastructure, capital goods. Colombia needs intermediate goods, technology, and the United States cannot lose being the first supplier of Colombia. Let me say this. My country is a tropical country. We need to import corn. We need to import wheat. We need to import barley. Colombia has been the second largest market for U.S. agricultural products. But in the last 10 years, we have seen an increase in Colombia imports from Argentina because Colombia has signed agreements with many countries. And this growth from Argentina has been at the expenses of the United States exports to my country. Of course, we have signed the agreement with Canada, and the Canadian Parliament has already ratified this agreement because the Canadian Parliament recognized what I want the United States recognizes, that we have improved a lot the effective protection for the labor leaders. Before our administration, there were years with the killing of more than 300 trade unionists. Last year, there were 14 cases. We are not happy. We need 0 cases. But it has been a long history of violence. Communist guerrillas introduced in my country the combination of all forms of struggle. They killed, kidnapped, and they penetrated the labor movement. And later on, the paramilitary reaction killed many labor unions, accusing them of being guerrillas collaborators. And in vengeance, massive guerrillas began to kill them, accusing them of being traitors. This is the complex situation my government found. And we fought impunity. Before our administration, there was one single rule, condemning one killer. Last year, when we left government, we left more than 200 rules condemning trade union killers and more than 200 murderers in jail. During our administration, we provided individual protection for more than 10,000 Colombians. 2,000 out of them were trade unionists who received from our administration effective protection. My country has made significant improvement. And I have said that the United States, Canada, the European Union, the free trade agreements are new sources for the protection, the effectiveness of the labor rights in every country, in this case, in my country. Keep in mind this, my fellow friends. Last year, the International Labor Organization, for the first time in more than 20 years, excluded Colombia from the list of non-compliant countries because of the efforts made by my country. Let me finally speak about narco-trafficking. Yesterday, I was asked here why, after so long time, Colombia has not defeated totally narco-terrorism, because in Colombia there is narco-trafficking. We are winning, but we have not won yet. The United Nations said 3 weeks ago that last year Colombia again reduced the cross of illicit drugs by 13%. Colombia is a positive case. Is a case demonstrating that the fight against narco-trafficking is winnable. And we need to fight production, money laundering, illicit wealth. We have to fight the trade of guns. The President of Mexico said to me that in the last 2 years, the Mexican police has seized almost 100,000 assault weapons previously sold in neighboring USA cities. It is necessary to fight all these elements of this criminal activity. We can no longer divide this problem between the consuming countries in the north and the producing countries in the south. Every country has the risk to produce and the risk to consume. My country has a growing rate, a concerning rate of consumption. We need to fight consumption. This is not to take the addicts to jail. The addicts need medical treatment, but we need to take to jail those distributing small amounts of cocaine. In my country, the domestic distribution of cocaine, because of the legalization of the personal dose, has been a very, very effective way to stimulate domestic criminality. In my country, alcohol and illicit drugs are the main source of hitmen, of killings. In November, in Georgetown University, I was asked by one student, 18 years old, why alcohol yes and marijuana no? And I said to him, I have not the right answer, because alcohol in my country was determinant of killings. how old are you? I am 18. And I said, I am 58. Be ready for 20 years hence, when you are 38. If my God preserves me with life, I will ask you why marijuana yes and cocaine no. We cannot increase step by step sources of criminality. The best place to speak against the permissive stand regarding consumption is here in Utah, because of your moral values, because of your ethical convictions, for you are our best allies in this fight against narco-trafficking that has been a source to corrupt the new generations. If we want that the new generations have the opportunity to live in peace with prosperity, it is necessary that the world, in a global action, get rid of illicit drugs. My fellow citizens of Utah, I had the opportunity to meet many Colombians living here. They are very happy. When I greeted them, I saw them are happy, that I thought they have fallen in love with Utah. They want not to leave from Utah. Therefore, there is a great similarity between Utah and Colombia. Someone coming to Utah, the only risk he has is wanting to stay. Someone going to Colombia, the only risk for him or for her is wanting to stay. I want to invite you to have much more tighter links with my country, Colombia. Thank you very much.
President Uribe. We have time for a few questions, and joining me to ask these questions. If you have one already, come sit here. Joining me is Miguel Rivera, also from the state of Utah, citizen of for trade and diplomacy from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So we have a few questions. We're going to sit down and ask those. And also, if you want to fill out your cards, you can. All right, Miguel, do you have a question?
So during your 2 terms, you made many difficult decisions in the pursuit of democratic security for Colombia. Would you comment on the notion of presidential accountability vis-a-vis your relationship with President Hugo Chavez?
Stay stand. In my opinion, as the old communist regimes failed, the new communist regimes will fail. Why I say that this regime is a new communist regime? Because this regime, step by step, is eliminating private initiative. Is eliminating the independence of state institutions. From one election to the other, it restricts freedoms. And we had many difficulties with this government because many Colombian terrorists have found in the territory of our brother Venezuela hideouts. And of course, I am accountable because I said my country can no longer stay quiet while terrorists killing my fellow Colombians, kidnapping my fellow Colombians, are protected in the neighboring countries. For many people, my policy on international affairs was confrontational. Before I placed the claim that Colombia was no longer to accept the hideouts or terrorists in our neighboring countries. These are some points of our differences with the current government in Venezuela. Many people in Venezuela have said to me, but the current government subsidizes the police people. Yes, they have the resources because of oil. But in the long term, my question is this. Although they have enormous wealth because of oil, is it possible to sustain subsidies for the police people in the absence of private investment? Sooner or later, they will fail. Private investment is the engine for prosperity and for the poorest people to live out of poverty. For I disagree with the current government of Venezuela and with their followers in Latin American countries. I believe in the rule of law.
Also regarding Hugo Chavez, how long do you believe he'll stay in power?
It depends on the people of Venezuela. If I were a political consultant and I were asked about the platform that the opposition should support for next year elections, I would say, first, they should not speak about the war to restore. They should speak about the war, the bed to renew. Because in the past, Venezuela had problems that at the end were helpful for President Chavez to win. Second, I would say it is necessary to preserve the good policies for the poorest people that have been in place because of President Chavez, and to improve them. Third, to make them sustainable, it is necessary for Venezuela to create a new framework for private investors to prosper. And for the credibility of the democracy in Venezuela, it is necessary, in this case, to restore the independence of the institutions that make up the state in Venezuela.
I have another question here. Are there any differences? Getting the free trade agreement with Colombia has been a difficult challenge. Are there any differences between the Obama administration and the Bush administration? And what, we understand it's important to get the free trade agreement passed, but do you have hope that it will ever be passed?
I have to be very prudent in answering this question. Let me say this. The best the United States has done for our country is to have in a bipartisan policy. President Bush, the senior, brought the Unilateral Preferences Act. President Clinton gave continuity. President Clinton brought Plan Colombia. And President Bush, the junior, gave continuity to Plan Colombia. President George W. Bush, when we negotiated the free trade agreement between Colombia and the United States, he negotiated it with all the enthusiasm. He was eager for congressional approval. I am confident that at the end, President Obama will place the same eagerness, the same energy for congressional approval as President Bush demonstrated during his term. At the end, this is not a relationship from one political party to Colombia. It should be, as it has been, a bipartisan relationship between two states submitted to the rule of law. I am hopeful that the Obama administration will give us the good news of the ratification of the free trade agreement.
All right, we have time for maybe 2 more questions. Yeah?
What are the business opportunities in the Colombian energy industry?
Many. Let me say this. To promote investment, we introduce in Colombia many structural reforms, and we need others. President Santos is conducting new bills to introduce new structural reforms. One main reform in our administration, was the restructure of Ecopetrol, the state-owned corporation for oil. It was quite difficult because of the penetration of guerrillas for a long time. I consider it was at any moment, I was almost in dismay because I considered that it was impossible to advance with the reform. But then we got the reform. And today, this is a mixed private and state-owned corporation with private management. Before our administration, Colombia was going to produce less than 230,000 barrels of oil. Today, Colombia produces over 900,000. And the prospect is that my country will reach 1.5 million. In natural gas, step by step, Colombia is improving. Colombia has excellent sources for hydropower. Colombia has successfully tried to implement eolic energy. Colombia has enormous possibilities to develop biofuels without limiting food security. Because of the availability of fertile flat land, my country can at the same time expand food security and biofuels. And biofuels in countries such as Colombia, where they do not compete with food security, are becoming much more important in these times when all the humanity are fearful of new nuclear developments. And Colombia geographically is very well located because we are in the middle of South American countries, Central American countries, and the Caribbean. It is very important to consider the transmission of energy from Colombia to the Central American countries, to connect it to Mexico, to establish a submarine cable to come from Mexico to Dominican Republic, to Puerto Rico, and to close the circuit, getting again into Colombia. In the energy sector, you have enormous possibilities in Colombia. In the production of medicines, in the production of cosmetics, Colombia has a very diversified economy. Today, Colombia is developing one very important sector, the business process outsourcing. Colombia has almost 100,000 new jobs in this sector. Colombia is on the way to introduce transformation to its economy by adding value to the oil production and by developing new sectors in which the country can become a new world player.
All right, I have one easy question, and I'll finalize the conference with a tougher one. This is an easy one. Is it safe to travel to Colombia, particularly to the ruins of San Agustin?
Today it is. Today it is. And keep in mind this. When our administration began, Colombia received only 600,000 international visitors per year. This year, Colombia is going to receive almost 3 million. When I was president, I personally attended tourist groups. I remember that the first time we received the International Convention for Tourists, I gave them my phone number, and I said to them, while you stay in Colombia, if you have any problem, please call me, and I will attend you for your safety personally. Today, I can no longer do this, but if you email me and tell me that this group from Utah is going to visit Colombia, I will call President Santos and I will say to President Santos, Mr. President, I don't require you to do the same that I did, but I beg you to order someone in the police to protect this group of nice people from Utah who want to come to St. Augustine.
Okay, final question. You served 2 terms as president. 5 million people wrote a referendum to try to change the constitution so you could run again, and you chose not to. What are you doing, Álvaro Uribe? What's your plans for the future? The question was here, are you going to run for mayor of Bogota, governor of Bogota? But really, what is it that you plan? You're 58, you got a lot of years, you look better than me, I'm younger than you. What are you going to do, President Uribe?
Mark, I am very thankful at my fellow Colombians because they gave me the opportunity to serve 2 terms, to stay in the presidency for 8 years. I am thankful with the past, therefore I have to be constructive for the future. And without any personal ambition, I want to fight for the well-being of my fellow Colombians until the end of my health. I want to keep it healthy, for having the possibility to serve Colombia. The mayorship of Bogota, I have said, I should not be candidate. I want to support Mr. Peñalosa, who has been excellent mayor in Bogota, and who can turn Bogota around at this moment. In Central America and South American countries, I am asked, what do you do now after you left the presidency? And my answer is, I am a jobless fighter. Fighter for what? For the rule of law, for democratic values. I am a fighter against terrorism. I am a fighter for the rule of law, for freedoms, for social cohesion, for investment promotion. I am a fighter against the new communist regimes in my region. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.